In a world where information travels across borders in seconds, and the narratives constructed around any geopolitical conflict can have a profound impact on public opinion and international relations. The situation involving Israel is a prime example of how polarizing narratives shape not just local perceptions, but global perspectives as well. These narratives, often fueled by emotion, history, politics, and media bias, can divide audiences, frame conflicts in black and white terms, and influence how nations, organizations, and individuals respond to complex realities. The Israeli-Palestinian conflict in particular has become one of the most polarizing subjects in international discourse, with each side promoting its version of the truth, and with neutral or nuanced views often drowned out in the noise. Polarizing narratives tend to present issues in binary terms: good versus evil, oppressed versus oppressor, democracy versus tyranny. These oversimplified frames do not reflect the intricate realities on the ground, but are highly effective at capturing attention and generating loyalty or outrage. In the case of Israel, supporters often frame the country as a beacon of democracy surrounded by hostile forces, emphasizing its right to defend itself and its technological and economic achievements. On the other hand, critics portray Israel as a colonial occupier, an aggressor responsible for systematic human rights abuses, particularly against Palestinians in Gaza and the West Bank. Both sides draw on a long history of trauma, violence, and political maneuvering to reinforce their arguments, creating narratives that resonate deeply with their respective audiences. The media plays a crucial role in amplifying these narratives. In Western media, there is often a visible split in coverage. Some outlets are accused of pro-Israel bias, highlighting Israel's security concerns while downplaying Palestinian suffering. Others are seen as overly sympathetic to the Palestinian cause, focusing on civilian casualties, displacement, and blockades, while minimizing acts of violence committed by Hamas or other militant groups. Social media has further intensified this divide, offering unfiltered access to images, videos, and personal accounts that can either humanize or demonize either side, depending on what is shown and how it is interpreted. This polarization is not just ideological, it has real-world consequences. In countries like the United States, United Kingdom, and across Europe, public opinion on Israel and Palestine has become a cultural and political fault line. Among younger progressive audiences, there is increasing support for the Palestinian cause, often tied to broader movements for racial justice, decolonization, and human rights. Conversely, conservative and religious groups tend to support Israel, citing shared democratic values, biblical connections, and strategic alliances. These opposing views influence how policymakers speak about the conflict, how aid is distributed, and how international resolutions are drafted or vetoed at institutions like the United Nations. At the same time, the polarizing nature of the conflict has made it difficult for international diplomacy to succeed. Efforts at mediation are often viewed with suspicion by one side or the other, especially when the mediators themselves are seen as having a biased history. Countries that take a strong stance in support of Israel may find themselves alienated from the broader Arab world, while those advocating for Palestinian rights being labeled anti-Semitic or accused of legitimizing terrorism. This creates a diplomatic minefield where nuanced positions are risky and bold actions like recognizing Palestinian statehood or moving embassies to Jerusalem are interpreted as definitive endorsements of one narrative over the other. Moreover, polarizing narratives often prevent genuine understanding and empathy. When one side's suffering is acknowledged while the other's is dismissed, it reinforces a sense of grievance and isolation. Israeli civilians who live in fear of rocket attacks feel ignored by global media that focuses solely on the aftermath of Israeli airstrikes. Palestinians living under occupation or blockade feel abandoned by international leaders who continue to support the Israeli government despite allegations of human rights violations. This mutual sense of victimhood, when continually reinforced by narrative framing, creates a cycle of resentment that perpetuates conflict and makes reconciliation more difficult. Activism on college campuses protests in major cities, and online campaigns have all become battlegrounds for these polarizing narratives. Hashtags like Free Palestine and A Stand with Israel are emblematic of the zero-sum thinking that dominates public debate. Instead of fostering dialogue, they often devolve into accusation, cancellation, or even violence. In some cases, Jewish students report feeling unsafe or targeted during pro-Palestinian demonstrations. In others, pro-Palestinian voices are silenced or accused of anti-Semitism for criticizing Israeli policies. And the global conversation becomes not of finding common ground, but of choosing sides with little tolerance for complexity or dissent. What is lost in this polarization is the possibility for balanced analysis and the recognition of shared humanity. The truth is that both Israelis and Palestinians have legitimate historical grievances, security concerns, and aspirations for peace and dignity. But the current environment, driven by emotionally charged narratives, often reduces them to symbols in a global ideological struggle. As a result, solutions to the conflict are judged not on their merits, but on how well they align with existing narratives. Breaking free from polarizing narratives requires a deliberate effort from media outlets, political leaders, educators, and citizens alike. It means listening to voices from both sides, acknowledging pain and injustice wherever it exists, and rejecting the idea that empathy for one people necessitates hatred for another. Only by embracing complexity and encouraging honest, respectful dialogue can the global community play a constructive role in supporting peace and justice for all involved. Until then, polarizing narratives will continue to dominate the conversation, shaping not only how the conflict is understood, but how it endures.